Welcome, everyone, to Speak Up Weekly, the podcast where we dive deep into the world of augmentative and alternative communication. I'm Lisa, and I'm here with my co host, Yulisa. Today, we're discussing something incredibly important to us and millions of people worldwide: AAC Awareness Month.
Hi, everyone. I'm Yulisa, and I'm so excited to be here talking about this topic. October is AAC Awareness Month, and honestly, it's one of my favorite times of the year because we get to shine a spotlight on something that truly changes lives every single day. Lisa, I know you've been passionate about AAC awareness for years. What does this month mean to you personally?
Yulisa, AAC Awareness Month represents hope and possibility. It's a time when we can educate people about how communication isn't just about speaking with your voice, it's about having a voice, period. For those who might not know, AAC stands for Augmentative and Alternative Communication, and it includes any method of communication that supplements or replaces speech. We're talking about everything from sign language to picture boards, from speech generating devices to mobile apps like the one we work on. I think it's also important for our listeners to understand the full spectrum of what AAC encompasses. When people hear AAC, they might picture someone typing on a tablet, but it's so much broader than that. We have low tech AAC, like communication boards with pictures or symbols, gesture based communication, and even simple yes no systems. Then there's high tech AAC, which includes speech generating devices, smartphone apps, and computer based systems. What I find fascinating is that most AAC users actually combine multiple methods. They might use gestures, facial expressions, some speech, and a device all together to communicate most effectively.
That's such a great point, Lisa. I often tell families that we're all multimodal communicators. We use gestures, facial expressions, tone of voice, and body language along with our words. AAC users are simply adding more tools to that toolkit. And here's something that might surprise people: AAC isn't always permanent. I've worked with children who used AAC while developing speech and eventually transitioned to primarily verbal communication. I've also worked with adults who use AAC temporarily after surgery or during illness recovery. The flexibility and adaptability of AAC systems really are remarkable.
Exactly. And I think it's crucial for our listeners to understand that AAC isn't just for one specific group of people. We often hear people say, oh, that's just for kids with autism. But that's such a narrow view. AAC benefits people of all ages who have difficulty with speech or language. This includes individuals with cerebral palsy, Down syndrome, aphasia from stroke, ALS, traumatic brain injuries, and so many other conditions. Even people who are temporarily unable to speak after surgery.
The diversity of AAC users is incredible. I remember working with a teenager named Marcus who had been in a car accident and lost his ability to speak clearly due to a traumatic brain injury. He was the class president and debate team captain before his injury. After the accident, he was so frustrated because people assumed he had cognitive disabilities just because his speech was unclear. Hospital staff would talk to his parents instead of him, and friends didn't know how to interact with him anymore. Once he started using an AAC app on his tablet, everything changed. He could communicate complex thoughts, share his sense of humor, and participate in family discussions. His confidence soared, and he went on to attend college and is now in law school. It really opened my eyes to how communication affects every aspect of our lives. Marcus's story really highlights something crucial: the importance of having AAC options that match someone's communication needs. For our listeners who might be unfamiliar with the technology landscape, let me paint a picture of what's available today. On the simpler end, we have communication boards with pictures or symbols and simple voice output devices. Then we have tablet based apps like the one our company makes, ranging from basic symbol communication to sophisticated text to speech systems. At the high end, we have dedicated speech generating devices designed specifically for communication. And what's exciting is that costs have come down dramatically. A communication app that costs $50 today would have required a $10,000 device just 15 years ago.
The democratization of AAC technology through smartphones and tablets has been revolutionary, Jaleesa. I remember when families had to wait months or years to get funding approval for a dedicated communication device. And even then, the device might not fit their child's needs perfectly. Now, parents can download an app and start exploring AAC immediately. They can try different symbol systems, different voice options, different organizational structures. That's why the guidance of speech language pathologists like yourself is so important. The accessibility revolution has also led to unexpected benefits. I've seen siblings learn to use AAC to communicate with their brother or sister, making family interactions more inclusive. And when AAC is on a regular tablet or phone, it reduces stigma because it looks like technology everyone uses.
Stories like that are exactly why we need AAC Awareness Month. There are so many misconceptions out there that need addressing. One of the biggest myths I hear is that using AAC will prevent someone from developing speech or that it will make them quote unquote lazy about learning to talk. Research has actually shown the complete opposite. AAC often supports and enhances speech development. It reduces frustration and gives people a way to communicate while they're working on their speech skills. When a child can express their needs through AAC, they're more motivated to engage in communication, which creates more opportunities for speech practice. I've seen countless cases where children who started using AAC actually developed more speech over time because they weren't struggling with the frustration of not being understood.
Oh my goodness, yes. That misconception drives me crazy because it prevents so many people from getting the support they need. Another myth is that AAC is only for people who can't speak at all. But many AAC users can speak some words or in certain situations. They just need additional support to communicate effectively. Some people might use AAC when they're tired, stressed, or in noisy environments where their speech isn't clear enough.
Right. And then there's the assumption that you need to have certain cognitive abilities to use AAC. People think you need to be able to read or understand complex symbols, but AAC is incredibly flexible. We have systems that work with photographs, simple pictures, gestures, or even single switches for people with very limited motor control. The key is finding the right fit for each individual person.
Speaking of finding the right fit, let's talk about why awareness is so critical. When people don't understand AAC, AAC users face barriers everywhere in schools, workplaces, healthcare settings, restaurants, and even in their own families. I've seen situations where teachers didn't know how to support a student with AAC, or where doctors dismissed a patient's communication attempts because they didn't understand the technology being used. There are practical barriers too. Families who can't go to certain restaurants because staff don't have patience for AAC communication, or schools where AAC devices get taken away during tests because teachers thought they were cheating, not understanding that the device is the student's voice. In healthcare settings, I've witnessed staff talking to caregivers instead of directly to AAC users. These aren't isolated incidents, they're systemic issues that stem from lack of awareness.
It breaks my heart when I hear about those situations. But on the flip side, when communities are educated about AAC, amazing things happen. I know of schools that have trained all their staff on AAC basics, and the inclusion of AAC users has improved dramatically. When people understand that someone using an iPad to communicate is just using a different language system, they're more patient, more inclusive, and more willing to engage. Those barriers you mentioned, Lisa, really highlight why targeted awareness efforts for different professional groups are so important. For teachers listening, remember the AAC device is part of the student, just like glasses or a wheelchair. Give AAC users extra processing time and teach other students about AAC so the whole classroom becomes inclusive. For healthcare workers, speak directly to the AAC user, not their caregiver. Ask them to show you how their system works and make sure they have access to their device during appointments. For employers, AAC users often make excellent employees because they've developed strong organizational skills. Simple accommodations like providing written agendas or allowing extra response time can make all the difference.
Absolutely. And awareness leads to better funding and resources too. When legislators and insurance companies understand the importance of AAC, they're more likely to provide coverage for devices and services. This is huge because AAC technology can be expensive, and many families struggle to afford it without insurance support.
Let me share a success story that really illustrates the power of AAC awareness. There's a young woman named Sarah who started using AAC when she was about 8 years old. She has autism and was completely nonverbal when she started school. Her family was initially resistant because they'd heard it would become a crutch. But when Sarah's frustration began leading to challenging behaviors, her speech language pathologist suggested introducing AAC alongside continued speech work. Once her family learned about AAC research and saw how it worked, everything changed. Sarah went from being unable to express her basic needs to having conversations about her favorite fantasy novels, participating in school presentations, and eventually getting a part time job at the local library where she helps other families find resources. What's remarkable is that as Sarah became more confident with AAC, her spoken words also increased. She now uses both speech and her device, choosing whatever works best for each situation.
That gives me chills every time I hear stories like that. What's particularly powerful about Sarah's story is how it shows the ripple effect of AAC awareness. Her family became advocates, her school implemented better AAC support, and her workplace became a model for inclusive employment. One person's success can educate and inspire an entire community.
Exactly. And that brings us to something I'm really passionate about: how everyone can support AAC awareness, not just professionals like us. You don't need to be a speech therapist or work for an AAC company to make a difference. Sometimes the smallest actions have the biggest impact.
So true. For our listeners who want to get involved, here are some simple but powerful ways to support AAC awareness. First, understand that AAC is just another way to communicate. When you encounter someone using AAC, be patient and give them your full attention. Give them time to construct their message without finishing their sentences. Look at them, not their device or caregiver. Respond to what they're saying, just like any conversation. If you don't understand something, politely ask them to repeat. AAC users are usually happy to clarify. Don't touch someone's AAC device without permission, and include AAC users in group conversations. Don't exclude them just because their responses take longer. Make sure they have the chance to contribute. Ask them direct questions and wait for their responses.
Those interaction tips are so important, Lisa. I'd also encourage people to share AAC awareness content on social media during October. Use hashtags like hashtag AAC Awareness Month, hashtag Communication for All, and hashtag AAC Matters. Share stories, facts, and resources. If you work in education, healthcare, or any service industry, ask your workplace to provide AAC awareness training.
And don't forget about supporting AAC research and organizations financially if you're able. Many nonprofits work tirelessly to provide AAC devices to families who can't afford them, fund research, and advocate for policy changes. Even small donations can make a huge difference. Organizations like Isaac, that's the International Society for Augmentative and Alternative Communication, do incredible work in this field.
I want to circle back to something personal here. Working in the AAC field has completely changed how I view communication and human connection. Every day, I see people overcome barriers, express themselves authentically, and build relationships through AAC. It's reminded me that communication isn't about the method, it's about the message, the connection, the shared human experience.
Beautifully said, Julisa. For me, working with AAC has taught me to be a better communicator myself. I've learned to be more patient, more creative, and more aware of the many ways we all communicate beyond just words. We use facial expressions, gestures, tone, and so much more. AAC users often become masters at using all these communication channels effectively.
And I think that's something people don't always realize. AAC users often develop incredibly sophisticated communication skills. They learn to be concise, clear, and expressive in ways that the rest of us could learn from. I've been in meetings where the AAC user was the most effective communicator in the room because they'd learned to organize their thoughts so clearly.
That's such a great point. It really challenges the assumptions people make about AAC users. Speaking of challenges, let's talk about what we see as the future of AAC and awareness. Technology is advancing so rapidly. We have AI that can predict what someone wants to say, eye tracking that allows communication with just a glance, and apps that are becoming more affordable and accessible than ever before.
The technological advances are exciting, but I think the most important progress is happening in terms of social acceptance and understanding. More people are learning about AAC through social media, through inclusive education, and through representation in media. When people see AAC users in movies, TV shows, books, and online content, it normalizes AAC as just another way of communicating.
Representation is so powerful. I love seeing AAC users sharing their own stories, advocating for themselves, and educating others. Self advocacy is becoming stronger in the AAC community, and that's leading to better policies, better technology, and better understanding overall. AAC Awareness Month provides a platform for these voices to be heard. I want to talk about some exciting developments in AAC technology and research. Artificial intelligence is playing a bigger role with predictive text that learns from how someone communicates, and voice banking technology that can preserve someone's natural voice before they lose the ability to speak. Eye tracking technology is becoming more affordable, allowing people with limited mobility to communicate by looking at symbols. What excites me most are the smaller innovations that solve everyday problems, like AAC apps that work offline, devices that automatically adjust volume based on background noise, or systems that seamlessly switch between different languages for multilingual families.
Technology is amazing, Lisa, but I always want to emphasize that the most important part of AAC isn't the device or app, it's the communication partner. The most sophisticated AAC system in the world won't help if people don't know how to interact respectfully and patiently with AAC users. I've seen simple picture boards create profound connections between people, and I've seen expensive high tech devices sit unused because the communication environment wasn't supportive. This is why AAC Awareness Month focuses not just on the tools, but on creating communities that value and support all forms of communication. The research shows that successful AAC implementation depends heavily on having knowledgeable communication partners, family members, teachers, peers, and community members who understand how to interact with AAC users. It's about creating an environment where taking time to construct a message is respected, where different communication methods are celebrated, and where the focus is always on the message, not the method. Before we wrap up, I want to share one more thought about why this awareness matters so much. Communication is a fundamental human right. When we limit someone's ability to communicate, we limit their ability to participate fully in society. AAC breaks down those barriers and opens up possibilities. It allows people to express their thoughts, feelings, needs, and dreams. It allows them to build relationships, pursue education and careers, and contribute to their communities.
That's exactly why we do this work, Jaleesa. Every time someone discovers AAC, every time a family learns they have options, every time a teacher successfully includes an AAC user in their classroom, we're making the world more inclusive and accessible. AAC Awareness Month is our annual opportunity to accelerate that progress and reach even more people with this life changing information.
For everyone listening, I hope you'll join us in spreading AAC awareness this October and throughout the year. Share what you've learned today with friends and family. If you encounter someone using AAC, remember to be patient and respectful. And if you know someone who might benefit from AAC, help them connect with resources in their community. Speech language pathologists, assistive technology specialists, or local disability resource centers can provide evaluations and recommendations. Attend AAC awareness events. Follow AAC users and advocates on social media to learn from their experiences. And if you're a professional who might work with AAC users, seek out training opportunities. Many organizations offer free webinars during AAC Awareness Month. If you're a parent or caregiver, connect with other AAC families through local support groups or online communities.
Thank you so much for joining us for this special episode on AAC Awareness Month. Remember, communication takes many forms, but the goal is always the same: connection, understanding, and giving everyone a voice. Before we sign off, let me share some resources where you can learn more. ISAC, the International Society for Augmentative and Alternative Communication, has excellent information at isac-online.org. The AAC Institute provides research based resources for families and professionals. If you're looking for apps, many have free trial versions so you can explore different options. We'll put links to these resources in our show notes. And remember, if you work with AAC users regularly, consider becoming an AAC champion in your community. Share your knowledge, advocate for inclusive policies, and help create environments where all communication is valued. Until next time, this is Lisa and Jaleesa reminding you that every voice matters, however it chooses to speak.